Mr. Schweikert, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The tyranny of this clock, because there's no way we can actually have an intellectually honest conversation in 5 minutes. Dr. Auerbach, I swear I have a book of yours sitting, don't laugh at me too much, on my nightstand. Is that possible?
Depends on your taste in reading.
Yeah, it's, you know, the terrifying thing is, never mind. So if I came to this panel right now and said, because this is really the conversation ultimately intellectually we should be having, clean slate. Okay, what tax model maximizes receipts and maximizes prosperity, economic growth, expansion, opportunity? What would it be? Because it's you know, most people say Laffer curve. I mean, we all know the reality that curve had been around for, you know, versions of it for 100 years. So because we're heading into a really interesting time because of the demographics of America, we're getting old. We're getting old fast. And whether anyone here wants to admit it, it's true from today through the next 30 years, 100% of the projected deficit is demographics. It's 75% Medicare, and if we backfill Social Security, it's the math, and that's from all the different think tanks. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Auerbach. You have a clean slate, and like 30 seconds, tell me a tax system that that gets us a rational, stabilized rate of GDP in receipts, but we grow, and we grow robustly.
Well, I'd like to thank you for giving me a clean slate. I'm sure you'd like to be given one as well.
Oh, more than you'd ever know.
I would, you know, I talked about consumption-based taxes in my testimony. I focused on the business level taxation, but I think that also applies at the individual level. And there are various models for taxing at the individual level, which I go through in my testimony, and I think there are different approaches, the value-added tax, the flat tax, progressive consumed income tax. And I think combined with a destination-based cash flow tax at the business level, I think that would really help growth. And let me add, as you're talking about aging, if you want to think about consumption versus income earning, you're going to have a lot of consumers out there relative to the number of earners as the population continues to age. And if you're thinking just about the size of the tax base, consumption is going to be an even more effective tax base to use relative to income as the old age dependency ratio increases.
Okay, so you would do a consumption with a VAT?
With a VAT or another kind of, some sort of consumption
Or destination?
Yeah, some sort of consumption taxation, yes.
All right, Doctor?
So actually, I wrote a book with Bob Carroll in 2012.
I don't have that one on
what
my
we would do, yes, I don't know if this is on anybody's nightstand or not, but progressive consumption taxation, the Bradford X tax, it's a modification of that that can allow you, by setting the parameters, to achieve almost as much progressivity as you would want. I've decided, however, in the years since writing that book, that that particular tax design is simply too complicated to explain and to market, and I now accept that as a fallback position, that we should have a value-added tax, which is not a progressive consumption tax on its own, as part of the federal tax system,
So
along with individual and corporate income taxes.
So you would keep corporate, individual, go to a national VAT. Would you do any type of inbound cash flow tax, a BAT, something of that?
A VAT, yes, would be a destination
VAT
base.
here, but so you would do a type of VAT that also extended into imported goods?
Yes, which all of the world's VATs do.
All right. Grover, or Mr. Norquist.
Thank you. Since you aren't starting from scratch and you have to do it through Congress and presidential signature, I think it's better to say, what are the steps you take in the right direction that one can achieve politically? And for there, I would recommend you look at the 50 states and see what they're doing. They have a lot of the same problems the federal government does. The politicians there lied to people and said, we have pensions for our state workers that they don't have the money for, or the local workers, just as people promised folks on Social Security and Medicare stuff that they have no ability to pay for. So they do have the same problem, which is all this expenditure that they hadn't planned on or hadn't organized around. But what are they doing? Look at right now, you've got, there's our states, 7 states have no income tax. But more interestingly, 12 states are moving towards no income tax. The governor, the House, and the Senate leadership have said, we're going to 0. Arizona is one of those. You've moved from 4
You
and a
know,
half
I've been a tax administrator in, my state, so.
to 2.5%, right? And they're looking to put on the ballot to go to 0. And what they do there is put a spending cap. Here's what we're going to spend. When money comes in above that, you then reduce the income tax and bring it down until you get to 0. North Carolina's been on this path for 11 years now, getting towards 0. You can phase the income tax down, bring it to a single rate tax. 12 states are already flat taxes, and another 7 are going there.
I'm making the chairman nervous because we're going way over time. At some point, if we have follow-up questions, we need to have an honest discussion of what different tax proposals produces income as a percentage of GDP. Remembering, we borrowed 8.4% of GDP last year. It was just the borrowing. So with that, I yield back.
Mr. Doggett, you're recognized for 5
Well,
minutes.
thank you very, very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you also that we have differing perspectives on much of the tax code, the fact